Welcome to the Transformational Coach podcast with me, Rona Barton, giving you competence with confidence. This week we're looking at happiness and joy, which is the last topic in our larger subject of moving towards happiness. We have already looked a little at procrastination, making your own luck, and last week handling rejection. This week, happier topics, happiness and joy. First of all, let's check in. How are you doing? If you've just said fine to that, try again. How are you really doing? Lockdown's been going on for a while now for a lot of people, and some people are beginning to find a new normal in getting back a little bit into work, perhaps just being able to visit with another family or a friend. But how are you doing really? Have you taken any time out to learn a new skill or develop a new hobby or just think? What I've been hearing a lot when I've spoken and checked in with friends during lockdown is they feel they've had to use this time to do something, to be creative or be active, to suddenly jump on the fitness bandwagon and see that they're up every morning doing a class and, in quotes, living their best life. And it makes me wonder, do we actually need to do that to bring some contentment to our lives? Who are we actually doing any of this for? Now, I have no issue with people wanting to get fit and doing things they enjoy and get pleasure from. What I do have a problem with is people feeling they have to do these things. Because what if you come out of lockdown and you've done nothing but keep yourself and your family safe by staying at home, watching television, cooking, reading a book, whatever? What if you've just sat and done nothing for lockdown? Is that a problem? If you're happy, you're safe? No, it's not a problem as far as I'm concerned. So let's take a moment and think about joy and happiness. And when I was thinking about this topic to discuss with you, at one point I was actually thinking, surely joy and happiness are the same thing. But are they? So I decided, just because I had some time on my hands, to look a little bit further into this. And I came across quite an interesting article online. It's 5 years old now. It's from the Psychology's website. And it's an article that has been written by, let me find the lady's name, Rachel Fernley. She has a website, rachelfernley.com. I'll pop a link to that in the show notes for this episode. And I really, really liked her opening gambit, where she talks about joy versus happiness. And she says, joy and happiness are wonderful feelings to experience, but they are very different. Joy is more consistent and is cultivated internally. It comes when you make peace with who you are, why you are, and how you are. Whereas happiness tends to be externally triggered and is based on other people, things, places, thoughts, and events. Now, I found that really interesting because I hadn't actually considered that the two were so separate. When I looked up the dictionary definition for each of these, I don't feel that it actually agreed, if you like, with what Rachel Fernley was saying. So, of course, I have an app for the Chambers Thesaurus and Dictionary on my phone, as you do when you tend to have a habit of writing anyway. And when I searched up happiness on the Chambers Dictionary app, the result came back as feeling or showing pleasure or contentment, such as a happy smile, or causing pleasure, such as a happy day for the company. And when I looked up joy to compare, it talks about it being a feeling of happiness or intense gladness and delight, or someone or something causing delight. And the example given is, she's a joy to live with. I think we all know that's directed at me. Him indoors might disagree at this point. So from there, I then decided to use the thesaurus function. And I first of all searched for happiness within the thesaurus, and the first word that came up for happiness was joy, followed by joyfulness, gladness, cheerfulness, cheeriness, contentment, pleasure, delight, enjoyment, gaiety, glee, merriment, etc., etc. It went on and on of all these different words that you could replace happiness with. And when you do the same in the thesaurus and search for joy instead, number 1, happiness, gladness, delight, pleasure. So in searching for these to find a little bit more and delve a little deeper, if you like, I didn't actually gain any more clarity. The thesaurus and the dictionary seem to use joy and happiness interchangeably. And I wonder if you feel that is the same. As I say, I like Rachel's explanation, where she talks about joy being more consistent and is an internal thing that we cultivate for ourselves, and happiness tends to be externally brought to us through people, things, events, thoughts, or even places. And she goes on to talk about the fact that aiming for joy is the thing that she finds more beneficial. She talks about it not being tied to any external circumstances, and she feels that a lot of people have lost touch with that feeling and not knowing how to cultivate joy for themselves anymore, and they go about looking for a quick fix, which, let's be honest, in our fast-paced world these days, quick fixes is what a lot of it is about. So, what might you define joy and happiness as? For example, whom do you love to spend time with, and what do you love to do? Does that bring you joy? Does it bring you happiness? Is it a bit of both, and should we really be looking to separate them? One of the things I like to do, and one of the things I've been doing a lot more of during lockdown, is cutting down on the amount of interaction or information I try and gain from social media. You know, it's easy when you're waiting for dinner to cook to just load up a social media app and have a quick scroll through and see what's going on. But what I find is, unless I'm watching videos of, animals making best friends out of something random like a dog and a horse, then I don't find that social media that I'm viewing or I'm in receipt of brings me much joy or much happiness. It doesn't make me feel content. So I've been actively cutting down on my social media. It doesn't stop me scheduling the various posts that I want to appear on my own social media for other people to take on board. But it can be challenging for us to move our thinking from perhaps a negative state to a positive state, a state of joy, if you like, or a state of happiness. So one of the things that I've done, as I've said, is cutting down on social media. I maybe only go online once in the morning and then once in the late afternoon or early evening. I don't like going onto social media too late at night, because then it's just playing in my mind, and if there's something that I've become quite annoyed at, then it just potentially keeps me awake at night, and I can argue with myself inside my own head. One of the other things I like to do to kind of bring some calm and contentment and I guess if we stick to Rachel's definition, that would be joy, into my life, is to just take some quiet time for myself, whether that's first thing in the morning, last thing at night, or spread out throughout the day. You might refer to it as meditation, you might refer to it as relaxation, but I just take a few minutes out to kind of get my brain to stop it being so busy with thoughts of work, or the food shop that needs done, or the laundry pile that's stacking up, or what somebody has said to me, or what I've read, and just quieten my mind so that I can listen more readily and more easily to what actually brings me joy and happiness in my life. And I can focus myself on those things. As I'm sure we're all aware by now, I am somebody who loves a list. I do like getting thoughts out of my head and down on paper. Sometimes it just helps me realise that something that might have been building up in my head is not such a big deal after all. So how do I do that? Well, I keep a bit of a diary, a journal, a gratitude list, whatever phrase you want to use it. I keep a note is what I'm saying to you. And each day I do my best to write something, at least one thing in there that I'm thankful for or I'm grateful for. Quite often we go through life very quickly and we forget to take time out and appreciate what we've got around us. Not just the people around us, but our environment as well. I'm very fortunate to live in the northeast of Scotland, and if I drive an hour, I am in beautiful mountains, forests, at the sea. I am surrounded by gorgeous landscape, regardless of which direction I choose to travel. And I like to take some time out and remember these things. So is this something you could do? Could you take a note of 2 or 3 things a day that you're grateful for or thankful for? Consider the things that have deep meaning for you. Now, some questions for you this week. How do you get in the way of your own happiness? What are you doing that stops you finding joy? And what fills you with joy? Can you spot any patterns if you start to write them down? When you are feeling joy and happiness, what are you doing? And what are you not doing? What are you doing differently, or how are you different in these circumstances? If you're having trouble thinking about this yourself, why not speak to your friends, your family, a partner, and see if they can help you with your thinking on it? Or why not reach out to me? Let me know. Join me on my social media accounts. Feel free to sign up for my website, or even drop me a message to ask me about my coaching. I'll leave it there for us today, and I'll be back next week when we move on to a new subject, which is all about confidence. And we will touch on 3 or 4 topics around confidence, about our gremlins and critics, our courage, our passion, our strengths. So I hope you'll join me then. In the meantime, stay safe, look after yourself, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.